Hello and welcome to Anime with me, Asteroidia, and yeah, that thing. Today we are watching anime again. I didn't yesterday because I thought I had a day off and I didn't. I've been doing a lot of watching and recording, and to keep track of all this, I put all the shows I'm watching down in the spreadsheet. I looked up all the times and all the dates, and I'm like, hey, I'm not watching anything on Friday. That's weird, but cool. I'll just take that day off. And I'm sitting there yesterday going, I could sit and record something and watch something today, but, no shows. So guess it's fine. But actually, no. Beasts of Ars and something else that I've recorded the first episode of, but haven't watched yet, haven't uploaded yet. Both air on Fridays. It's just when I looked it up, it had them listed as airing on. It had the day listed as Saturday, but with the JP time in the AM. I'm like, okay, so that means it actually airs on Sunday, but then, you're saying it airs on Saturday because obviously you count back like however many hours till like 4 p.m. GMT. It's like, no, actually it is 2 a.m. in Japan on Saturday, so it actually airs on Friday. It was a whole thing. Anyway, today we're watching episode 2 of Giant Beasts of Ars, which... Yeah, no, I've got over the joke of the name. It's fine. I'm not going to laugh at that anymore. Partly because I really liked that first episode, and I feel like I'm taking it slightly more seriously this time, although I did crack up a little bit at the end of that first video again at the name. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. There was a lot to talk about, a lot to think about, and it's an anime original, which is always exciting because we don't know what's going to happen next, and no one can spoil us on it, which is always good as well. I'm not hugely precious about spoilers, but it is nice to know that's not even a possibility, right? So yeah, in our first episode, it was mostly world building. It was good because it was a lot of world building, but at the same time, not a lot of exposition, which was it's a nice touch actually. Didn't really get to know our characters that well yet. We had Jiro and Kumi, or 22. I should have looked that up actually. Is that just 22 in Japanese? I don't know. I don't think it is, but I wonder if there's a relationship there. And we have these kind of central relationships, which it looks like we're going to explore between clerics and paladins. Paladins being these melee fighters, and clerics being these beings or people with this power to sort of go into some kind of incorporeal state and then power up the paladin with magical abilities. That was cool. And Jiro is like a former paladin who we are informed through flashback has had his previous cleric die on him at some point, fighting these giant beasts, these monsters that seem to be terrorizing things. So, I've got Ars no Kyojuu, episode 2, up. Let's get to it. As always, this will be a timer-based reaction, so you do need your own copy to follow along. I'll give you a 3, 2, 1 countdown until I start my copy. There will be a sliver of the episode at the bottom, the subtitles to help you sync things up, and a timer for the same purpose. So, on your marks, we're going to go. I'm going to make sure I've actually got this going. Sorry for the false start. There we go. So on your marks, let's go. 3, 2, 1. Go. Okay. She's known as 22. Having some slight headphone problems with my Bluetooth here, so I'm just going to plug these in. That's better. We have seen this already, though. Yeah, the spear comes down, and they're forging their new contract. Huh. There is more than a little bit of a magical girl Whoa, okay, that's... Huh. Oh, we're getting a power system explanation. Let's grab my pen. Demons stole it away. Okay. So there's kind of a stealing power from the gods angle here. I think we saw the OP in the first episode. Yeah, because I remember the slap bass in this one and the visuals, yeah. So we've clearly got a gang that we're going to get together at some point. With our central pair, the shady cat merchant, and a couple other people. There's him in his empowered form. We've got the cat merchant, but with like clones. I wonder if there are multiples of them or if that's just a visual thing. I think I mentioned that last time as well. Got her with the longer ears. Haven't met her yet. Okay, we've got some kind of old samurai dude. These two, who I speculated were maybe also a paladin cleric pair, but like a female one. That's kind of Evangelion. Yeah, and then there's the power up where you get the glowing hair. And in some way related to the magic weapon. And a spaceship as well, which I've got the whole post-apocalyptic vibe from the first episode about this ring as well being technological. I wonder if the ring's related to the transformation, or if it even is. The Covenant Ritual. That must be making this contract between cleric and paladin. I wonder if can they communicate? Ah, yeah. Oh, she doesn't. She has no idea what's going on. Also, the imagery of him like literally splitting in half during the transformation, that was cool. That's the woman that briefly sheltered 22 while she was fleeing from the guards. It's a cool creature design. Oh, very, very Evangelion. It's got its AT field up. Oh. Did it just grow a face? Yeah, it seems like a bit of a disadvantage trying to fight a giant monster with your superhuman Super Saiyan powers while you're absolutely hammered. Yeah, it has grown a face. I know I keep saying Eva, but like it now kind of reminds me of the mass-produced Evas from the end of Evangelion. Something about the face. Huh. Spear through the eye. Oh, wow. Definitely got some special abilities in that spear. Is it dead? Dead, I guess. Huh. It's cool that they get the whole kind of outfit once they phase out. Is he actually hurt or is he just passed out drunk? Hmm. Yeah. I'm just going to keep calling her the cat merchant. I'm sorry. Something about that. I find that amusing. So the guards haven't caught up with them by the looks of things. This is another very technological boat. Examining the scene of the battle. Oh yeah, and she just literally incinerated a whole bunch of the guards. Miasma. Magical residue? Oh, they rotted. Yeah, they kind of turned to ash. Oh. So 22 drew in the beast as well. That's got to be a paladin cleric pair. So is 22, is this normal for clerics, or is this, or is she, I'm assuming she's special in some way, but would they all have these rot powers, or is that just her? Because the one in the opening of episode 1 had ice powers specifically. That seems like it's going to be a problem if you've got these giant monster attacks on the regular, but it's fine. No one's going to spot her out in the bright open daylight again. She's wearing a hat. Exactly. I'm on the cat merchant side of this. Oh yeah, I forgot she has the hungry character trait, so. That wide shot's a little rough, but okay, we'll accept it. It's not as convenient as Attack on Titan, where they just disappear into steam, is it? You actually have to do something with this giant corpse that's left over. So Jiro maybe hasn't been here for long. He just came in on his airship slash ship. Oh, okay. His previous cleric died in a snowy area, so. Yeah, her name was Toka. I think I took that down. Yeah. Ooh. Oh, that's the guy who was on the dock. And he's in the OP as well. I don't think he's going to leave her behind. Oh, don't think he's going to be pleased with that. Also ties into what I was saying in the first episode about the possibility of clerics being like commodities and like kind of components to this, and that makes sense. I don't think that's what it means somehow. Oh dear, she's very sheltered. Okay, we're going to get an explanation here. And also, what is your angle on this cat merchant? I do not trust you. Covenant ritual, okay. But you didn't know that you were one. Ah, did they get... Oh. So... They do have inherent powers. These days. Huh. What did they used to be? Huh. So is that permanent? Has that bonded them long term, or? Oh, well, I guess maybe not. Oh, come on. We all know you're going to feel bad and come back. And the cat merchant has an angle on. I don't like it. There's something weird going on. Okay, this is the flower seller from episode 1 as well. Same one we took down once before as the flower seller. Who are you? Oh, I recognize that voice actor. Who is that? Oh, who is that? That's super recognizable. I'll have to look that one up. Just literally gonna write old man voice. He leave his incredibly powerful magic spear, or yeah, did he leave that, or did you like pickpocket it from him? Hmm. Hmm. Something about smell. It's oddly specific. And still, she's hungry. I was so sure this was, although it's a Mappa show, I was so sure this was the same people who did Shingeki no Bahamut, because that had a lot of hungry characters in it as well. Hmm. I like the music in this. Chapeau. Shady, more like. Yeah, she's like right there. Didn't seem like the troops were doing a whole lot of fighting when it came to the monsters. Oh yeah, you killed like a whole bunch of these people. Uh-oh, got miasma. It's gonna be real bad if they fight her in here. Oof. Brutal. That works, I guess. Wouldn't be the first one trying to touch her after that. Chapeau, is that the species or is it something more specific? Because again, there's all there's like clones of her in the intro, so. Knows that's a paladin's weapon. Wonder if paladins are rare and clerics are more common. Kind of implied by that flashback. Oh, okay. You seem manipulative, but maybe not a horrible person. Because I mean, yeah, sure they were imprisoning 22, but she is clearly dangerous, in a very kind of real and immediate sense. So yeah, you left your spear behind. Is that not alcoholism brain? Nice. That was great. Ooh, kind of battleship. Oh. Because he's trying to summon it back to him. So, how do the weapons relate to the Paladins and the Covenant? Are they like the channel by which the power is transferred? But then how is that? How does that come about? Reminds me of when I briefly dabbled in playing D&D. I liked playing sword mages, special swords you could summon to your hand and stuff. Is she going to know the spear belonged to him? Okay. So I think she and the old man have maybe worked out who he is based on what he's done. Prototype. Yeah. So are clerics in general engineered, or is it just 22? Okay, just knocked him out. I wasn't totally sure what was going to happen there, whether we were going to get a neck break. Still taking these pills. Or fragments of the crystals from the inside of the beasts. At least that's what it looks like to me. You look a little short for a paladin. It's a very convenient way to carry a spear. You don't need to work out where you could put it when you're running around. Yeah, we are trying to escape here. We should probably... Oh, that's very tech. Yeah, okay. Oh, I love a spear. Love a spear in a fantasy setting. Spears are the best. Pole arms are the best weapons. Swords are boring. Oh. Oh, wow. Oh, so he can summon it to his hand, but he can also hold it and have it drag him around the place like, well, like Thor, I guess. Huh. Didn't you forget to hold your breath? Okay, so I wonder if these aren't airships so much as they're like hovercraft. Maybe they can only hover over the water. Gonna make your escape. Imperial made ships. So maybe I'm wrong about the post-apocalyptic thing and it's just magical technology, but I mean, like, look at it. Okay, let's have another look at this transformation sequence. Kumi. No, I don't think you need to do that every time. That's cute. Oh, here he comes. Oh, we didn't see the sequence again. That's a shame. I guess we already got it this episode, so. A little static, but we'll accept it. Oh wow, his ship is kind of all beat up. It's a bit of a patchwork. So paladins are rare enough to be worth pursuing. The implication is that he would be worth pursuing independent of just the fact that he's rescued her. And that's it. We got the ED last time as well, with her walking off into the distance. So, like, we'll get anything post credits? Probably not, but we'll let it run just in the off chance. Always a good idea not to skip the credits on any anime, really. You never know what you might get. But on the assumption that we're not going to get anything more, we will leave that running in the background and talk about it. That was cool. Yeah. I like this show. I like this show. It's one of these shows where now, okay, so I'm going to use the word cheap in the context of this, right? There isn't really a better way of succinctly describing what I'm talking about, but I also kind of hate that because the whole budget thing in relation to anime is always like it kind of doesn't, with the kind of production schedules that anime's made under. Let's just see what we get from this because we're coming to the end of the ED. I probably shouldn't start talking until it's after it's over because I might lose my train of thought here anyway. It's a preview. It's a preview. Okay, we're not going to watch that. Okay, so we're done. Right. Budget, yeah. So when people talk about budget in anime, it's like you can dump a load of money into something and it can still look bad, and you can have a show that is pretty cheap to make and it still looks great. So like there's a load of I'm trying to think of an example of the former. The latter, I mean, anything Trigger has ever made, making stuff on really limited time and budget, and making it look amazing just through stylistic and directorial choices. Maybe occasionally Mappa. No, I don't think there's been any like major Mappa missteps, but you can put a load of money into something and it still won't necessarily look amazing. But so yeah, so as I was saying originally, I'm going to use the word cheap here, and I don't like it, but there isn't really a better way of saying it. Some aspects of this look kind of cheap. And I suspect that probably has less to do with budget and more to do with perhaps inexperience at the studio for doing big action scenes. Because I remember I looked up the studio the first time because I had I think, as I mentioned at some point during that, I'd mentioned I wondered if it was the same studio that did Shingeki no Bahamut. Because it had a kind of similar vibe. I meant to look it up actually, because I wanted to look up if it had shared any character design or anything, because I still think, I wonder if there's some shared DNA there, but I'll try and remember to do that for next time. But yeah, I looked up the studio, and they haven't done very much. They've been around for a while, but the stuff that they've done has been kind of adaptations of slice of life manga, I think. We'll just look at this up quickly, and I will go through them just to make sure I'm, aside from anything else, make sure I'm not talking complete nonsense. because it is kind of possible that I am talking complete nonsense. Yeah. Okay. This was the one I looked up before, because there's a load of stuff here that's just that I have never heard of and has very limited Wikipedia entries. Like adaptations of mobile games. Manga that there's very limited information of, like a Hello Kitty series for Sanrio at some point. I mean, obviously I've heard of Hello Kitty, they did a couple of things, but I don't think I've heard of any of these properties. A minor Super Robot Wars thing, but yeah. So I don't think it would be entirely Asahi Production made an anime film trilogy where they released all 3 films in 2020 about a somewhat obscure looking surfing mobile game. God knows. So suffice it to say that it seems like Giant Beasts of Ars, in terms of it being an anime original action drama show with big effects and stuff, it's kind of breaking new ground for the studio, and I think it does show in places, because there is some stuff where okay, it looks kind of cheap, but at the same time, it also they're using what they do have kind of effectively. Like it's they're working around it in ways that work quite well. Like that final sequence where he jumps on the hovercraft and then spears it through the middle. There isn't really an awful lot that happens there. He just jumps on the top. He puts the spear through the top of the hovercraft, airship, whatever you want to call it. The kind of enlarged version of the spear appears in like a freeze frame, basically, of the whole thing. And then you've got the effects around it, and then we have a cut to white, and then it cuts to the next scene. So that is I think if you weren't really paying attention, you'd be like, oh, that was cool. But if you're actually looking at it, you're like, yeah, that was kind of maybe overly simplistic, which the first episode was better with that. I think maybe they have done the classic anime thing where they did kind of front load quite a lot of effort into the first episode, and you can see a drop off in the second one. But at the same time, it wasn't like we really had a huge action set piece. No, of course. Sorry, I'm talking nonsense, because we had the fight against the beast at the start, which was a cool design. It wasn't a very long fight, though. Yeah, and there's just they're getting kind of creative with the cuts to avoid having to show very much. There's a couple of things maybe I'll show. It'll be hard to get across in still images. I'll try and get a little bit of this animation in, because like he strikes at the beast and he just kind of bounces off, but in a way that's like kind of I don't know. It looks okay. Some of the character stuff and the still frames that they've got in here are cool. I like the designs. The designs are really good, and of course, because this is an anime original, that means it's not like they've just lifted a load of really good designs from really good manga or light novel illustrations. This is clever, actually. I kind of yeah, it's clever. They've made a lot of shortcuts in this sequence, but in ways that I kind of like I kind of respect that. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like they showed a lot where it was just you could hear the battle going on. It was the reactions of the people in front. Okay, that was kind of cool when the I'll cut that in, when the beast grew its head out of the kind of severed neck part with the glowing disc. That looked kind of neat. And there's some nice shots of the large creature moving. The creature as well is hand drawn, I think. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's not CGI. So that's cool, because that could very, very easily have been a really horrible CGI creature. But it actually looks pretty good. It's more just they're taking shortcuts in actually animating kind of all parts of this fight, but some of them are quite well executed shortcuts, which again, I'm like, yeah, okay, props to you. I see what you're doing there. I see why you're doing it, but you could have done that in a way that was a lot more obvious than it ended up being. And there's some nice stuff in here. I'll kind of I maybe won't focus on anything specifically, because I don't want to be here all day talking about this one sequence. But I'll cut together some bits and pieces of this that were quite nice. But yeah. So to cut a very, very long story short, I do think there are some cut corner. Focus. Thank you. I do think there are some cut corners in this episode specifically that I don't think I noticed so much in the first one. So I think we've had a bit of a fall off in animation quality, which okay, yeah. These action sequences weren't as important. I would have maybe liked this first one to be a bit more dynamic, just to show off the abilities a bit better. Then again, we had the kind of paladin cleric thing in the cold open for the first episode. Well, it wasn't really cold open. The sort of flashback 20 years back for the first episode, where we had the paladin cleric pair fighting a monster right at the start. So we have kind of seen that, I suppose. And this episode was more about kind of establishing the character dynamic, although again, there are some aspects of this where a lot of stuff happened, but it didn't necessarily tell us a huge amount that we hadn't already figured out from the first episode. Like I praised the first episode for its kind of show don't tell thing, where we learned a lot, but there wasn't a lot of exposition. And this episode, to be honest, did kind of just give us the exposition that we would have had last episode in some places, where it kind of made explicit a few things that maybe it didn't necessarily need to. We know a little bit more about the Imperial forces that are pursuing 22. We've got a pair who've been brought in to fight or take part in the hunt, possibly, who... Yeah, so this is the same guy from Jiro's flashback, who was present when his paladin died. I assume he's probably a paladin as well, although he doesn't appear to be one in the flashback, although it is black and white, so it wouldn't actually... I don't know if you'd be able to tell whether he had the glowing hair. Yeah, and he's quite dismissive of clerics in general. So we had one of the things we did learn here that I'd kind of wondered about in the last episode, but we didn't. That was definitely speculation on my end, was about clerics being expendable, being kind of components that you can switch in and out, or which I was kind of wondering. I think I maybe mentioned clerics specifically, but I was wondering which side of this would be the expendable part. Are the clerics important and irreplaceable, and they just bring in new paladins as the paladins get killed, or is it the other way around? Are the clerics more like batteries? I think it's probably the latter now. The clerics being kind of batteries, components that can be switched out. They are expendable. But Jiro doesn't think so. Because Jiro clearly had some closer relationship with his cleric than is normal, maybe. It's hard to say if he's the abnormal one, or if the white-haired guy with the scar is the abnormal one for not caring, but my assumption would be Jiro is the one who cares more. And he's really desperate to try and revive Toka. And then when this other guy suggests leaving her behind, which I'm just kind of scrolling through here. Oh, no. Okay, so it isn't the guy with the scar who suggests leaving her behind. It's the miscellaneous third man with a gun. But yeah, Jiro is not up for that suggestion. He is not happy with that at all. There are any number of clerics who can replace her. How dare you? Yeah. The interesting thing about that flashback as well is that it ends with the monster bearing down and about to kill them all. So, what happened there? Did Toka revive long enough to enter into the paladin state thing with Jiro and they killed it? Or did someone else swoop in and save them? Interesting. Interesting that we cut it off there, cut off his dream. I assume because we kind of got a little bit, we got a fraction of that flashback last episode. We got more of it this episode. There's clearly another chunk in the end that we haven't seen yet. So next episode we will see what we get there. Yeah. And we had the flower shop owner that had saved Kumi last episode is someone. She has some kind of connection to paladins. She's got some kind of connection to paladins and clerics. Is she a cleric herself, maybe? Former? Don't know. The old man she speaks to briefly. He's got to be a paladin, right? He seems like he's got that look. I think he's got like a special... He has a special sword, a katana. The guy in the intro of episode 1 had a katana. The old man and the flower seller. They're not the pair from the first episode, are they? I think he might be the guy from the first episode. But is she from the first episode as well? Let's just have a quick look at that. Might edit out the searching here because it'd probably be kind of boring, but oh, good. Okay, hang on. I've got a picture of the two of them here from when I was editing together that last video, so we can open that up. I think we might have found the pair from the intro. That's cool. See, this is one of the things I found really interesting about doing these reactions and scrolling through the episodes afterwards to look for images in the edit, and also just talking about them in general while looking through them, because you can sometimes catch stuff like this where in the first... I mean, I probably would have thought about it, but I might not necessarily have caught that the katana on the old man is the same sword as we had in the intro. Where's our old man? There he is. There's the old man's sword, and we've got our image of the two warriors from the beginning. That is the same sword. And he's got a scar. The young warrior has a scar across the bridge of his nose. And our old warrior has a scar across the bridge of his nose. The same guy. Same guy. Cool. Okay. Huh. I did not notice that. So he is undoubtedly a paladin. Now, the question here is she the cleric from that flashback? Does she have the right hair color for that? Yeah, could be. Obviously, anime characters, it's always hard to tell who is a younger version of whom, unless they have distinctive features. Because, like, the old man and this guy, if they didn't have the sword and the scar, like, you wouldn't be able to tell that. So since the flower seller doesn't actually have any really distinctive features, the only thing I can kind of go off is just hair color, really. And the hair color would be, I think, right. I mean, the lighting's a bit different here, but could be, hard to say. Hard to say. We won't try and Sherlock Holmes this, just because I don't actually think there's really enough to go on there to say for sure. But given that we have an established relationship between the old man, who is definitely the young man from the introduction in episode 1, we have a relationship between him and this woman. I mean, I don't think it's. It might not be her, but it's not entirely unreasonable to think it maybe is. So that's cool. We've brought them back. I kind of wondered if that was just going to be like a introduction to the universe and what clerics and paladins are, or if that would be strictly relevant to the characters in the modern day. But apparently it's strictly relevant to the characters in the modern day. The last 20 years have not been kind to that guy, though, because like he kind of looks in that intro like he's maybe like 20, 30 odd. And it was only 20 years ago, so you would assume by that he can only be like mid-50s at most, but he looks about 70 now, so it's one of these things with anime time skips where either people don't change at all, well, often people either don't change at all, or they go through like 70 years in the space of about 10. So yeah, I mean, being a paladin seems like a hard job. It may prematurely age you. I mean, that may actually be a thing in the context of the magic system. So there might be an actual explanation for that, or maybe in that intro he was in his mid 40s, and he was just fit for his age, and now he's in his late 60s to 70s. So yeah, I guess it's always hard to judge ages on anime characters. That's an interesting touch, though. I'm glad I spotted that. And then we have the cat merchant is super shady. I don't know what her deal is, but she's clearly got some agenda here that she's trying to bring these two together for. She's up to something for sure. I don't know what it is yet, but she's up to something. There was a mention of I don't think I took it down, but she is something. I don't think I need to worry about trying to look that up. I'll write it down for next time. I will put the term up here in a box, so you now will know what the cat merchant was referred to as. I don't know if that's a species name or if that is maybe a name for her specific type, because there are lots. I keep bringing this up. There are lots of her in the intro. Like there's a picture of her like with a load of clones, and I'm starting to wonder if that is not just a kind of stylistic thing to represent her being in, having presences in a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, presences in a lot of places. I think that might be literally she is one of many, which is cool because it kind of it's kind of playing with the idea of fantasy game merchants being like the same person in every village. That there's just a merchant character who turns up in the same place, and it's not made to be the same literal person, but they've got the same character model because you want to have someone who looks like a merchant, but you've only got so much space in the disc, so you have to you don't design them differently. So that'd be kind of fun if that was the case. And I think it might be with something about the way they use the term for her. I wondered if that was a thing. So she tries to push the relationship between Kumi and Jiro as romantic. Jiro's like, this is not what this is. He's clearly still pining after his previous lost cleric. And that seemed like it kind of seemed like a romantic relationship, although it's hard to say. And although Jiro keeps knocking it back, Kumi definitely seems to be into that idea, because she's very disappointed when she doesn't get the kiss as part of this transformation. I guess that was just to literally seal the deal, the covenant between the two on the ship at the start, or on the water at the start, when he was rescuing her and heading off to fight the beast. Yeah. Okay. So that's basically it for this episode, I think. There wasn't as much to talk about this time because, like I said, it did. This episode did spend a bit of time explaining things that we had kind of worked out from last episode, and I maybe would have rather had just been show don't tell, and it kind of decided to go back on itself and then just tell the things afterwards, which is fine. You know, I mean, it would have been, in retrospect, maybe quite surprising if they hadn't gone back to confirm a few things. You know, because I gotta remember, I'm not really casually watching this. I am going back through to find stills and stuff. So I am going to pick up on things that someone who just wants to sit and watch 20 minutes of anime isn't going to like necessarily pick up on if they're not actually explained at any point. So that's fair enough. I would have preferred it the other way, but I can see why it's not like that. So that's fine. And the animation definitely took a bit of a downturn this time. This turn. What are we playing an RPG? This episode. But again, okay. With the studio that's made this and just anime production schedules in general, episode 2 downturn in animation. Yeah, makes sense. That happens a lot. But the characters are still interesting. The world is still fascinating. The post-apocalyptic angle that I was so sure of in episode 1, I'm actually starting to wonder about again. Just because I had been assuming that the airships slash hovercraft slash whatever they are were relics of this bygone era that we had devolved from, but the cat merchant talked about them being Empire manufactured, like people are making these, which makes me wonder if maybe it is more just a stylistic thing where they've just decided to do their Magitech kind of thing. But they've decided to push it in a very sci-fi direction instead of a steampunk direction, as would maybe be more conventional with this sort of thing. And that's cool. I mean, maybe a little bit disappointed that my grand theory maybe isn't as accurate as I thought. Yeah, a little bit, but that's only kind of professional pride that was at stake there. Professional pride as a reactor that's at stake there if my predictions end up not coming true. I'm not really that bothered about making predictions and then having them right. I'm not even that bothered about making predictions at all. It was just something that I thought parts of the previous episode pointed to. So it's fine. It's an interesting aesthetic, even if it doesn't necessarily point to anything in the world building. It's an interesting choice to go with that because these ships are super sci-fi. So I mean, we've kind of established that the thing in the OP is that this one of these hovercraft slash one in the OP seems to be two of them docked together almost. I don't know what's happening there, but they look like spaceships. Like if you showed me a frame of this and told me it was one of the smaller ships from Cowboy Bebop, admittedly the aesthetic's a little bit different, but I would probably believe you. Which is a bold aesthetic choice for a fantasy show if it's not indicative of as I said a collapse of high tech in some point in the past. Yeah, the show just looks cool in general. Again, I got to look up those character designers, try and find out if there's anything common between this and Bahamut. Our two central characters are really, yeah, I mean, everyone looks great. The character designs are all really cool. The uniforms and the costuming. I mean, I kept going on about the world building last time. And yeah, it's just great. And it's not just the textual stuff, it's the visual stuff as well. It's all really, really well designed. And everything is thought and function put into it as well. Like Jiro's outfit, he's got the kind of body glove thing under his jerkin, and he's got the metal parts on his arms, which, as we saw last episode, he was using to like deflect arrows and stuff. So they're functional. They're actually there for a reason. His arm guard goes up further on his left arm than his right arm, because when he's holding a spear, he's got to have more protection on that side. His right arm would be further back. That's what I mean. It's all functional. really good design. And unusual in anime character design, because a lot of the times they'll do the Nomura Final Fantasy thing where people just have like belts and shit all over them. Like they'll be covered in belts and covered in stuff. And it's like you're looking at these characters and going like, well, what does that do? Why does when this person gets up and puts their clothes on in the morning, why do they spend 4 hours putting all these belts on? Like, what is the function of this? And I mean, it's fine to have character designs that are just, you know, there for the aesthetics. It's like, okay, it's fine. But I prefer it when you've got stuff like this, where it's like, this guy is wearing asymmetrical arm guards because that's what makes sense. That's how his fighting style works. And yeah. He's got the high boots and the short kind of cargo pants. And yeah. Super practical. Uniforms and all that. Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. I like that a lot. And the spear is very cool as well. Like I said, it's a good way of carrying a spear because, because I was saying earlier on about how much I love polearms and fantasy stuff, and like everyone should be using polearms. Polearms are the best. They're so much better than swords, but like, admittedly, especially in something like anime or even live action, it's fine to say someone's carrying a spear in a book, but if you're talking about anime or live action, they now have a spear like all the time, and either they have to have that strapped across their back, has to come into 2 parts so you can store it side by side, or they just have to be holding a spear, and that's one hand is now not free for the entire show that they're holding the spear. I can see why so many people use swords, but this is a good solution to that, because the spear can shorten down into like a little dagger thing that you can keep in his belt, and he can still have his spear, which is, yay, spears, polearms. And the fact it seems to be able to extend like infinitely, he's got like a Thor's hammer thing where it can kind of drag them around. The spear pulls you off. Ragnarok references. You see you have a deep emotional attachment to the spear, and losing it would not be unlike losing a limb. We need to get Taika Waititi in as a sidekick character in here. Have him voice a mascot character. In the Japanese dub, except all his lines will be in English and everyone will just not reference it. Anyway. But yeah, the spear is very cool. And his design when he goes Super Saiyan is fun. There was one last aesthetic thing I wanted to talk about, because there was some interesting stuff going on right at the start when we saw the end of their Covenant thing. Because there was some really cool imagery just at the end here. So I think I'll maybe run most of this sequence, or as much as I can. Because she gets her cleric outfit, which is very kind of priestly, and disappears into energy. And he this kind of weird chasm opens up in his body crossways. He literally splits in half, and then her energy kind of pours into the center of his split in half body. That's such a kind of visceral image. Like I'll have this. No, it would be that direction. I'll put this up on screen because this is like, wow. That is. That is a choice. That is a very specific choice to do that way. Because there are like a bunch of ways you could illustrate this, right? Like and like similar stuff, the one that would spring to mind is just kind of like a sort of blurred thing where they kind of merge into each other and kind of phase into each other would be a good way of putting it. Or just a glow or a generic transfer of energy, an aura surrounding him that she kind of becomes. There's a load of different ways you can do this, but to have him like split down the middle, split in half, like his body opens up like a I don't know, like a pair of curtains. He just splits in half, and then the energy pours into him. That is very specific, and like I said, very visceral kind of image. Really kind of emphasizing the physicality of it. Yeah. I'm glad I remembered this actually, because this is like one of the coolest things about the episode is this. Because like what they've done here, right, is they've really emphasized the physicality of their combining with each other in a very kind of tactile, visceral way, but also in a way that makes it very non-sexual. Because I'm thinking about the ways you could have done this, right? And it kind of links back to something, although they kind of muddied the waters in this slightly this episode, but in a way I kind of liked. But in the last episode, one of the things I talked about at length was that I really liked that the sealing the covenant, it was a kiss on the forehead, not a kiss on the lips, which I felt like in a lot of inferior anime. That is a little bit unfair. In a lot of anime that would be approaching this in a more conventional mindset, it would have been a kiss on the lips, you would have had the blush, you would have had her slapping him in the next episode because he did that. Oh, you stole my first kiss, and it would have been a whole thing, and it would have been very boring. Yeah, in worse anime they would have done that. I'm actually happy to commit to that. In worse anime they would have done that. But in this they went for the kiss on the forehead, and it was kind of like intimate but sort of chaste. And that's kind of what they did here, although not, I wouldn't call this chaste, but it's intimate but not sexual. And there's a lot of ways you could have done this that would have made it, not even intentionally, but would have made it kind of weird and like weirdly sexual, right? I can see a lot of shows that would have gone for that. And this is super cool because, again, it's like intimate and like kind of grisly and strange, but very non-sexual because it's so like, ugh, because there's this body horror component to it. But they've got this kind of combining into one. That is a visual. Oh, yeah. Because I had it frozen in the frame where he was kind of opened up and then he kind of seals back together again. Bisected vertically. Oh, that's super cool. That's really cool. On like, so many levels. I love that. That's great. And it makes me think they're going to do something interesting with this central relationship as well. Because I don't think this is me just... Like, it's very easy to look at this sort of thing and say, oh, you're just over-analysing this, right? Like, this stuff isn't necessarily on the minds of the people who are making this, but like... It's something about that whole sequence split between last episode and this episode just feels very deliberate to me, and they're kind of going down the romantic route with Jiro and Kumi at the end of this, kind of, but it's something about the very deliberate way that they did this makes me think that they're going somewhere with that, especially considering Jiro is still mourning his previous dead partner who was kind of framed in a very romantic way. I think the relationship between Jiro and Kumi might be going somewhere a lot more interesting than a lot of other shows or a lot of other stories, really, in general, not even just anime would do with it. So I have high hopes for that. I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint me by going very tropey down the line, because it still could do that. I could be wrong on this. Well, I don't think I'm wrong on this, but they could choose to not build on the foundation that I think they've established here. And that would be okay. A little disappointing, but it's what it is. But I hope they do something with that, and I think they might be going for something there. Right. I was going to cut this short about 25 minutes ago and stop talking about this because I really wanted to bring this in under an hour. I might actually try and cut this one so that we maybe get under like 50 minutes if I can find like 15 minutes to cut out of it, but we'll see. I think I might run a poll at some point because I do feel like I have a tendency to waffle a bit. I'm not entirely sure it's a good thing that all of these are starting to coming over an hour. I would really, really like to try and pare these down to like 50 minutes. I feel like would be a good length of time. Just because once it gets over an hour, unless there's something really interesting to talk about, I feel like I'm kind of imposing on other people's time. Well, A, I feel like I'm imposing on other people's time, and B, I feel like people aren't going to watch the entire thing, which would be a shame because like I only thought of the most interesting thing in the episode here right at the end of the video, and if people have stopped at like 45-50 minutes, then they're not going to have seen that. So, but that is a discussion maybe for another day. I have a feeling I might put up a kind of general chat video at some point with a few thoughts on shows of the season and some channel stuff like that, and see, maybe try and get some opinions on what people would like me to do. But yeah, so I wanted to cut this episode short, and the last thing I want to do is make it even longer with like meta discussion. So let's end it there. That was interesting. Maybe disappointing in some ways, but very interesting in other ways from the character and world building perspectives. I'm still very excited to see more. This is definitely the best. So far, I'd say it's the best anime original of the season compared to kind of the Snow Sea, which was good, but had some issues. I'm definitely looking forward to this more, but yeah. Yeah, we'll see where this goes, and that's it. If you would like to see more, I would urge you to like and surprise. I would urge you to like, subscribe, and if you actually want to see more videos, please consider hitting the notification button, because that is the only way I see anything that I am subscribed to these days. And I will see you later. I've been Asteroidia, this has been Giant Beasts of Ars, and I will see you in the next episode.